The Aces and Eights. Yes, we are talking about the Aces and Eights once again. Why? Because the Aces and Eights look to be returning to Impact Wrestling in the very, very, very near future, potentially as early as this weekend at Slammiversary. Now, how do we know, or why do we think that the Aces and Eights are returning to Impact Wrestling? Well, because Impact Wrestling have been teasing the return of Aces and Eights for quite a long time now. If you go all the way back to April of this year, or maybe even slightly earlier than that, Impact Wrestling were going to do a TNA throwback show called TNA There's No Place Like Home. They invited a load of ex-TNA superstars to come at the event: Wildcat Chris Harris, Chris Sabin. But the thing that caught most people's attention was D'Lo Brown and Mr. Anderson returning to TNA as the Aces and Eights. Unfortunately, that show didn't happen. It was cancelled due to the pandemic, and many people thought that the Aces and Eights one-off was not going to happen. But fans can rejoice because it looks like the Aces and Eights are returning to the company in the near future, because Impact continues to tease it on their weekly television program. A couple of weeks ago, D'Lo Brown was backstage, a producer for Impact Wrestling. He's typing away on his computer. Reno Scum come in. They mock him. They say, "You used to be a member of the Aces and Eights. You used to be the vice president of the Aces and Eights. But now look at you. You're just typing away on a computer. You're a computer lackey, a computer geek." And then fast forward to the end of the show, we see D'Lo Brown talking to someone on the phone. He says, "I don't want to be known as a computer stooge or a computer geek. I want to get the band back together." And as he gets up and leaves his chair, we see the Aces and Eights cut on his chair. Many people thought, oh my, we're going to get the Aces and Eights coming back to Impact Wrestling. It got a lot of people excited because, myself included, I'm a massive fan of the Aces and Eights stable, the gimmick, the look, the music. I think it's just all great. I'm a massive, massive, massive fan of the Aces and Eights group. Now, we've seen Impact continue to tease Aces and Eights also. I believe, was it last week? Or the week prior, the classic moment of the week was the Bully Ray defeating Jeff Hardy for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship in 2013 to reveal that he himself was the president of Aces and Eights. So they are doing these classic throwbacks of the week sort of thing for all of the people that they think, that a lot of people think are going to re-sign with Impact Wrestling. You notice that they've been doing a lot of Eric Young stuff, like Eric Young's top 5 moments in Impact Wrestling, or throwback to when Eric Young won the TNA World Heavyweight Championship from Magnus in 2014. They've been doing the same for EC3. EC3's historic moments. On this day, he won the TNA World Heavyweight Championship from Kurt Angle in 2015. The reason that they're doing this is because they're trying to prime their audience that these guys are going to be coming in soon, without openly saying these guys are going to be coming in soon, because legally they're not allowed to, and they're not going to spoil the surprise anyway. So that's the reason we're seeing a lot of Aces and Eights throwbacks on Impact Wrestling, on their social media. If you see it, it's because you're meant to see it, and you're meant to get excited about it because the group is coming back. Now, I made a video the other day about all of the past members, that were previously members of Aces and Eights, who could be coming back with the return of the Aces and Eights. So obviously that group that I pitched included the likes of Bully Ray, who's obviously a free agent now, D'Lo Brown, Wes Briscoe, Nux, Gallows, Anderson. Well, there'd be 2 Anderson. There'd be Kyle Anderson and there'd be Mr. Anderson, Ken Anderson, 2 Andersons in one group. But today we're not going to talk a bit about that. We're going to talk about who could be in this new lineup of Aces and Eights, right? Those are the old guys coming back. That is D'Lo Brown saying that they're going to get the band back together. But who, from a free agent point of view, or existing members of the Impact Wrestling roster, could join Aces and Eights in this new look Aces and Eights, right? Just because they're getting the band back together doesn't mean we're going to have some new prospects, some new recruits, some new soldiers added to the group. And I think that's important. I think that's really, really important to do for Aces and Eights when they return to Impact Wrestling, because, yes, as I mentioned, I'm a huge fan of Aces and Eights, the group, the look, the music, all of that sort of stuff. Big fan of it. Some people aren't. Some people said that it's just a rip-off of Sons of Anarchy, which it is. It is a massive rip-off of Sons of Anarchy. I like Sons of Anarchy, though, so I'm fine with that. And if you look at professional wrestling, isn't everything a rip-off of pop culture? That's just what it is. Sting, the Crow Sting, is called the Crow Sting because it's completely lifted from the film The Crow. That's just how professional wrestling works. If they see something, they like it, and they do it. You know, Dexter Loomis in NXT is Dexter Morgan from the TV series Dexter. The professional wrestling has always worked like that. It's just Razor Ramon is Scarface. So for people that criticise Ace and Eights, going, oh, they're just ripping off Sons of Anarchy. Yeah, they are, because it's a cool show. It's a cool gimmick, having a motorcycle stable that have their clubhouse, and they ride their motorcycles to the ring, and they walk in a different entrance to everyone else in the arena. And it's just cool, and they wear the cuts, and they have the president, vice president, prospect, soldier, all of that. It's great. It's great. It's just a great gimmick, and it's a great group. So obviously wrestling, it's opinionated. Everyone can have opinions. I like it. You might not. Some people may like it. I think I'm really excited about Ace and Eights coming back. But as I mentioned, I think it's really important that while they are getting the band back together, bringing the band back, and this isn't the old TNA band of Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Sean Waltman from 2010. I mean, bringing the band back together in a metaphorical sense here. It's important to update the group. It's important to add new members to the group. And it's important not to just completely look back on the past and do exactly what they did in the past, right? You need to offer them something new. We don't want this just to be a reunion tour, a bit like in WWE where they bring the NWO out once in a blue moon. It's like, oh, I remember the NWO. They were cool. They were cool as hell. If you're going to bring them back, let's bring them back. Let's update them. Let's do something slightly different, and let's have them be cooler than ever and better than ever. How do you do that? You add new members that weren't in the group previously. So who could you add to the group that wasn't previously a member of Aces and Eights? Wow, let's go into some names here. So people that aren't currently on the Impact Wrestling roster, but I think maybe in the near future, let's have a look. So first of all, I'm going to say Zack Ryder and Curt Hawkins. These two are a very, very, very interesting prospect for me because we don't really know what one half is doing, but we kind of have an inclination on what the other half is doing. So Curt Hawkins has been teasing, or Brian Myers, whatever you want to call him, has been teasing a lot on his social media about the July 18th date, right? Which is, of course, again, I mention this almost in every video at the moment that I talk about Impact Wrestling, is the WWE non-compete clause expiration date, which is speculated. Now, obviously, it also is the date of Slammiversary this Saturday, July 18th, but is it the exact same date as the WWE non-compete clause expiring? Some people aren't sure. Some people say it might be July 15th. It might actually be earlier, considering that they were released on a Wednesday and the 90 days fall on then. I don't know. But he's been teasing July 18th, which obviously a lot of people have. But Curt Hawkins has been teasing July 18th, or Brian Myers has been teasing July 18th. He's obviously got a lot of history with the company. He was part of the GFW invasion back in 2015, a former TNA World Tag Team Champion with Trevor Lee during that period of time. So he does have history with the company, but he's considered to be a WWE guy. And I think that's really important when it comes to the Aces and Eights. Now, not everyone in the previous iteration of Aces and Eights was a WWE guy, but it was important, I think, that you noticed that the first few people that were revealed in Aces and Eights were former WWE guys. And it felt like that kind of invasion storyline of this was a group that was infiltrating Impact Wrestling. This wasn't a group of just people on the roster that decided we're going to be a stable, we're going to ride motorbikes. No, it felt like something external was coming into the company and invading the company and had infiltrated the company. That's why it was so great when D'Lo Brown was revealed as the vice president, because he was an executive, and the roots of Aces and Eights went very deep inside of Impact Wrestling at the time, but also a lot of it was this external force of ex-WWE guys that had lost their way, came into the club, and then came into Impact Wrestling. It was a very clever storyline. It was a very layered storyline, in my opinion. So I think that's where someone like a Brian Myers would fit in perfectly, right? This July 18th date could actually be the beginning of the wholesale invasion of Aces and Eights, and Brian Myers might be one of these people that, when released by WWE back in April, they were lost. They didn't know what to do, and then the Aces and Eights brought them in. This is the Aces and Eights. The new Aces and Eights is a collection of these ex-WWE superstars that are hungry. They have a chip on their shoulder. They're frustrated. They're angry at the world. So what do? They band together and they decide to take over a company, that company being Impact Wrestling. So I think Curt Hawkins, Brian Myers, would be a great addition to Aces and Eights. And some people will say, doesn't he have to be like a motorcycle rider? No, he doesn't. All you have to do is put the cut on him. If he looks cool in the cut, and I think he would do, then great, do that. Why not? So I think Brian Myers would be an excellent addition to this new version of Aces and Eights, because I also think when it comes to someone like a Brian Myers, and this is no discredit to him or no slight at him, I don't think he's ever going to be really a world champion in an Impact Wrestling or anything like that. I'm just not sure that's really his forte. I just don't know if he could be really considered to be that guy that is suitable for that. But what I think he could really benefit as, and it's like his previous run in Impact Wrestling, obviously in addition to the X Division, I think he could do well in the X Division. If he was Aces and Eights representation in the X Division, I think that would be great. We know his proficiency as a tag team wrestler, whether it was with his championship reign with Trevor Lee in Impact Wrestling or his history with Zack Ryder. So again, if they both came in, they could be a tag team in there. But Zack Ryder is something a bit different, and we'll go on to Zack Ryder now. Now, Zack Ryder has also been teasing this July 18th date on his social media. His social media has been slightly different. He's sort of shown himself to be shedding the skin of the old Zack Ryder, right? He's been posting pictures of obviously something that he's been filming. And on the floor, you can see lots of previous iterations of Zack Ryder that are disappearing. You can see the Major Brothers tights. There's a picture of him winning the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 32. There's a Z True Long Island Story logo there as well. You've got the old Broski headband and Broski sunglasses there on the floor. He's shedding his skin and becoming something different. Now, obviously, in those photos, he has the Internet Championship with him, and he still kind of looks a bit Zack Ryder-ish. You know, obviously not the complete old version of Zack Ryder, but he looks Zack Ryder-ish, I would say. So, we don't know where he's going. I wouldn't say Zack Ryder to Impact Wrestling is as close as what I think Brian Myers to Impact Wrestling will be. The reason I say that because of his relationship with Cody Rhodes in AEW. He's very good friends with Cody in AEW. I'm sure he would probably like to go to AEW over Impact, personally. Just because, Impact Wrestling has got a lot of buzz about it, and it's growing, and it's exciting as it's ever been, in my opinion. Well, especially in a long, long time. Maybe not as it's ever been, but certainly in a long, long time. But would it be somewhere that Zack Ryder wants to go? I don't know, especially when AEW says we will have you. I've mentioned this before, though. I think there's a ceiling for him in AEW. I think he could maybe at most be a TNT champion, and that's in a very distant future. Otherwise, he's going to be appearing on Dark and maybe the occasional Dynamite. If he goes to Impact Wrestling, I think he could become a world champion. I really do think he could become a world champion, or he could certainly be doing something very substantial and adding to the television show every week, which is what I don't think he would be doing in AEW if he signs there. And again, with Brian Myers and Curt Hawkins, I think if Zack Ryder goes to Impact Wrestling, this idea of Aces and Eights, the new version of Aces and Eights, having this external ex-WWE feel to it, about these guys that were released in April, and they felt like their world had been ripped apart and they had a black hole in them, and they decided to band together, reform with a couple of original members of Aces and Eights. I think that could be really, really fun and really, really compelling television. And having someone like a Zack Ryder in there, I think would be a great way to introduce him to Impact Wrestling as this external ex-WWE guy, as a member of the new Aces and Eights. And then you have Brian Myers and Zack Ryder in there as a tag team. They could be the tag team of Aces and Eights, right? And they could go after the Impact Tag Championships. I'd be really interested in seeing Zack Ryder and Curt Hawkins versus the North match. How fun would that be? Obviously, that depends on if the North defeat Ken Shamrock and Sami Callihan at Slammiversary, which I kind of think they will, to be honest. Even though that is a tough one, because I could absolutely see Shamrock and Sami Callihan winning that one, especially they've been hyping up how long the North's championship reign has been right now. It's over a year, isn't it? But I just don't see any reason to take it off them, to be honest. But if you have a Brian Myers and Zack Ryder come in as a member of the Aces and Eights, I think that changes the dynamic significantly, and that really does elevate the tag team division. I suppose the problem is that Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson look to be a shoo-in for this new Aces and Eights revival. So do you have two tag teams in there? Maybe not. Maybe you have Zack Ryder and Brian Myers be single competitors. I mentioned Brian Myers going for the X Division title. Why not have Zack Ryder go for the X Division title? I think that'd be a lot of fun too. I mentioned in a video previously that I think that's Impact Wrestling's next step, is to rebuild that X Division and make it a selling point which it once was. I don't think... Is it possible for it to ever get back to the levels of when they had AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe and Petey Williams and all those people in there? Maybe not, because I think we didn't realize at the time how fortunate we were to have that caliber of athlete in the X Division at that time. They've tried to put back in it a couple of times, and it's difficult because people like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and Christopher Daniels don't come around that often, and I don't think we kind of realised that at the time. And subsequently, Impact Wrestling have realised that in the years after AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Daniels, etc., in the X Division. But Zack Ryder and Curt Hawkins, I think, would be an interesting addition to Aces and Eights, and certainly would give this new version of Aces and Eights something a little bit different and a different feel to what we were used to in the past. Now, another name that is an ex-WWE name, and I've mentioned him possibly coming to Impact Wrestling in the near future, is Heath Slater. Now, Heath Slater obviously appeared on Monday Night Raw last week, looked great, probably the best physical shape we've seen Heath Slater in his entire career. Cut a unbelievable promo. Just unbelievable promo last week, was absolutely tremendous. Showed exactly what he's capable of, what he can do if given the opportunity. It subsequently came out after the fact now that actually he didn't want to do that Raw appearance. He was done with WWE, rightfully so. Look at the way he's been treated throughout his career there as just a comedy character at most. But obviously he's good friends with Drew McIntyre, the WWE champion. Drew McIntyre called him, said, "Can you do me this favor? Do you want to come back, have a final moment with WWE?" And that's exactly what it was. It was a final moment with WWE. He's spoken subsequently after the fact, saying that this was the closing of a chapter when it came to his WWE run. So any worries or thoughts that because of how great his performance was last week, that he would re-sign with the WWE, just that's not the case. That's not happening. So that's good for Heath Slater in his career, and if anything, it just elevated his stock even higher and probably made him a more wanted man, and probably could have maybe added a zero to his contract where there wasn't one in the future. So Heath Slater, I made a video on, I believe last week, saying he has to go to Impact Wrestling for me. Again, it's not a slight on AEW or anything like that, but if he goes to AEW, he has a ceiling there. If he goes to Impact Wrestling, Heath Slater can be a world champion, in my opinion. And any doubts apart from that were put to rest last week when you saw that performance on Raw, because he looks great, his promo was great, we know he can work. He's hungry. Again, he's got a point to prove. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He was with the WWE for 10 years, maybe even longer than that. Never really got the opportunity to shine, but everyone, to a man or woman, will say that Heath Slater can work. He's great to be around backstage, and he deserves an opportunity. What better way to be introduced to Impact Wrestling, again, as in this new version of Aces and Eights, with a chip on his shoulder. He's an ex-WWE guy because he's been with the company for 10 years, maybe longer than that. Similar sort of time to Zack Ryder. Curt Hawkins the same, on and off. So if he came with Ryder and with Hawkins into this new version of Aces and Eights, again, it gives this perception or this feeling of an outside force infiltrating Impact Wrestling, right? This outside faction, they've infiltrated Impact Wrestling, but this time we've got some younger, more hungry people as a part of the faction. Whoever the leader is, whoever is the president and the vice president, I still think that the vice president is going to be D'Lo Brown and the president is going to be Bully Ray. I still hope that Bully Ray returns to Impact Wrestling as a member of the Aces and Eights. What better way to recruit new prospects than the likes of Zack Ryder, Curt Hawkins, and Heath Slater? These ex-WWE guys, it still gives Aces and Eights the perception of that outside forces group, because you have to remember, if with Impact Wrestling bringing back the Aces and Eights here and having the majority of the members being the old members or the previous members, or the original members rather, of the group, then that starts to become, they're an Impact Wrestling faction and they're Impact Wrestling guys. And I think the best thing about Aces and Eights in the past was that it kind of felt like they were outsiders infiltrating the company. So to have some of these newer ex-WWE guys added to the group not only gives them that grain of youth and hungriness and the chip on their shoulder, like I said, but having a Zack Ryder, a Curt Hawkins, a Heath Slater, two guys there certainly that I think could be future Impact World Champions. So you could actually almost build a budding rivalry between them there. It's a good way to introduce them, but it also keeps Aces and Eights as this perceived outside threat and outside group to the company. So I think having a Heath Slater there would be perfect. And Heath Slater's been in multiple factions in his career as well. I don't really want to say about 3MB, but obviously he was part of the original Nexus, which just deserves so much better, didn't it? Think back to that original Nexus. How hot was that angle when they first debuted on Raw, and they just got squashed like a bug. But Heath Slater is well known for being in factions. Like I said, Nexus was part of the Core as well. Do you remember that? The Core, 3MB. So he's well versed for being in a stable, and they can play up on that he has been in a stable his whole career. Joins Aces and Eights initially, but eventually he's like, you know what? I've done this stable thing my whole career. I want to stand on my own 2 feet. I want to be a single star, and then that's the beginning of the elevation of Heath Slater towards the main event, towards the Impact World Championship, which I think he can absolutely do in that company. So I really do hope he signs with Impact Wrestling. And I think Heath Slater is a fun way to be introduced to the company is in Aces and Eights, and then he splits and eventually goes onto the main event scene. I think that's a really fun way of introducing Heath Slater. But obviously, I mentioned there about having outside superstars, outside wrestlers joining the Aces and Eights that were released by WWE in the past. But again, one of the really fun things also about Aces and Eights originally was the fact that some recruits, some prospects were actually already inside the company. We just didn't know it. There was just the great reveal, wasn't there? So who else could potentially join Aces and Eights that is already on the Impact Wrestling roster? Because you look back on it, some of the best moments of Aces and Eights in the original run were those reveals, right? When you had the Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff reveal. At the time, they were understudies to Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle had taken them under his wing and he was teaching them, and then eventually they ripped the masks off and revealed that they betrayed Kurt Angle and they're part of the Aces and Eights. We saw the same with Devon. Devon removed the mask and he's part of Aces and Eights. Obviously the same with Bully Ray, was part of the Impact Wrestling roster too. But then the reveal of the likes of D'Lo Brown, who had infiltrated the company but was a member of Aces and Eights. You had Taz during the big reveal of the wedding of Bully Ray and Brooke Hogan. He was already a part of the company. He was already an announcer at the commentator's desk, and he revealed that he's a member of the Aces and Eights too. So those moments that they were, the company had been infiltrated for a long, long time, they just didn't know it. It's such a fun reveal to me, and I think they could do the same here with a couple of people. And let's go through some of the names that potentially I think could maybe already be members of the Aces and Eights. Now, I mentioned Taz there. I am going to say that in a million years, no way should Josh Matthews be a part of the Aces and Eights. The Aces and Eights doesn't need a spokesperson. I thought Taz did that role really well. But the last time that Josh Matthews was given more of an on-screen presence, more than just being a commentator, when he was more of a heel and was part of the actual programming with the likes of Jeremy Borash back in 2017, God, I mean, I know he was meant to be a heel and he was meant to be annoying, but it was just way too much. It was way too much. We thought Michael Cole was annoying during his heel commentary run in the match, at WrestleMania 27, which Josh Matthews actually called, by the way, so the irony there. Maybe he learnt from Michael Cole. But we thought that was bad and that annoying. At least in some parts, Michael Cole was actually entertaining. Josh Matthews during that sort of heel run in 2017 in Impact Wrestling was just beyond annoying. I mean, talk about go away heat. Maybe that's, I don't know. It was just so bad. It was so bad. So before people start saying, maybe Josh Matthews should be like this version of Taz and Aces and Eights. No. I will cut you off there. No, never. So a couple of names that I think could potentially be already a member of Aces and Eights we don't know about. Ken Shamrock. I would be really, really interested in seeing this. I think this role would suit Ken Shamrock perfectly, because you've got to remember he's a recently crowned Impact Wrestling Hall of Famer. I don't think he's actually had his proper induction ceremony yet, as far as I'm aware. But he can almost say that he came back and he wasn't respected as he was meant to be. And you had young punks like Sami Callihan and others trying to make a name off themselves, and people like Moose trying to make a name off themselves because of him. And he decided that enough was enough. He was tired of it. And the Aces and Eights provided him with the respect and the dignity that someone, a legend, an icon in this industry deserves. That's why he went to Aces and Eights. I think that would be really fun. I think it would also mean that he doesn't have to work every single week on Impact. Let's be honest, even though Ken Shamrock looks great at 55, 56 years of age, he needs to stagger his in-ring work significantly. He can't work every week, and I don't think he should. He should be kept as an attraction, as this old, wily veteran who can absolutely destroy you. If you watched the Sons of Anarchy TV show, some of the members of Sam Crow in there are people like Ron Perlman, who are the elder, I mean, I don't think Shamrock's going to be the president, but they're the elder veterans that have been with the club the longest time. They've got ultimate respect, but they carry a huge amount of influence in there. They're some of the most compelling characters actually in that program. So I think Shamrock could go into that role perfectly, and he just has the look for it, doesn't he? He has the look of that grizzled veteran, had a few beers in the day, enjoys being part of the club, and it just works. I think that look ultimately is what would work great with Ken Shamrock and Aces and Eights. So I'd really like to see Ken Shamrock get the cut of Aces and Eights, and maybe he's not like the vice president or something like that, but he could certainly be the sergeant at arms. I think he'd be a great addition to it. And look, who knows who the president is going to be? If it's not Bully Ray, then maybe Shamrock is a good person to have as the president of Aces and Eights. He's been parts of factions in his career, right? He was part of the Corporation. He was part of the what was that faction in WWE that was it the Union that carry around 2x4s? Yeah, been part of some classic factions there, hasn't he? But I think Shamrock as an addition to Aces and Eights would be really fun there. Another name, Rob Van Dam. Now, obviously, he was part of this whole thing with Joey Ryan recently on Impact Wrestling, and thank God that he's gone with the company now. It kind of leaves Rob Van Dam in limbo. He's another one. He's a veteran. He can start talking about, I didn't get the respect that I deserved. And I think he fits this whole Aces and Eights vibe really well. Again, initially, that initial Aces and Eights vibe with the likes of Bully Ray, Devon, Taz, etc., did actually have a bit of a ECW influence to him. So you could have potentially that ECW influence come back to Aces and Eights with the addition of a Rob Van Dam. I think him and Katie Forbes, that just works. I think that just absolutely works with the Aces and Eights. Again, if you go back and watch Sons of Anarchy, that's Sam Crow. It has the sort of males with the females and the first ladies and all of that part, or having the old lady part of Aces and Eights. I think Van Dam and Katie Forbes, that just fits perfectly to the group. And again, it means Van Dam doesn't have to work every week. He can appear with the group, and I think he would fit into the group, add the old ECW vibe there, and again, have the same thing as Shamrock, as I didn't get the respect I deserve, so I'm now a member of Aces and Eights. I think that would work really well too. And finally, a name that could already be on the Impact Wrestling roster and be a member of Aces and Eights. This one is sort of half and half for me, but what about the real world champion, the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, Moose? Now, Moose could potentially, in my opinion, I would only have him in there if you didn't have a Bully Ray as the president, and I'll tell you why. Because I think Moose, I think if he's not going to be... if we have Bully Ray and all those people originally coming back, then I don't think there's a place for him really in that faction. I think he's better off on his own. But if we can't get a Bully Ray back and we can't get some of those names back, then Moose is already carrying around the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. He's the one trying to bring back TNA and talking about the real world champion. What if he brings back Aces and Eights as a way of trying to bring back TNA, and he could then be the president of the group there? I think that's an interesting thing to think about. But it all depends about what they do, to be honest, with this whole TNA World Heavyweight Championship feud. I still think that he'll end up feuding with EC3 as an Impact World Champion in EC3 versus the TNA World Heavyweight Champion in Moose. So a champion versus champion scenario, I think, is the most likely thing there. But who knows, if the spot comes up, maybe Moose fits into there well. But this, of course, is just one man's opinion. What is your opinion? Who do you think should be new members to the Aces and Eights in addition to some of the original members? Let me know your picks in the comment section below. I'll be sure to interact with you all down there. I really enjoy speaking with you in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms on the screen right now too. It's at 365Wrestle on Twitter and at Wrestle News 365 on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.